My name is Dan Nowiski. I serve as part of the Mission Center President team for the Michigan USA Mission Center. My membership is in the Capital Area Congregation, which is in Lansing, Michigan. But today I want to talk some about our Detroit properties owned by Community of Christ. Part of my role on the Mission Center President team has been supporting the Detroit Hope Emerging Congregation, which has been there for several years, and managing the properties owned by the church overall. The congregation kind of got involved in energy efficiency work as the World Church and Mission Center leaders have been encouraging congregations to think about environmental stewardship, and started probably around 2015, I think, as part of a pilot with Interfaith Power and Light Michigan to record energy usage in houses of worship, and then to work on projects that could help reduce our energy usage and improve environmental stewardship. So at that point, we entered some data from our utility providers, and I think had assessments from the local Detroit energy company, got free LED screw-in light bulbs, did some window replacements, things like that. And then after that time, there were reductions in church staff, and so we lost the position at the congregation, and things kind of were on hold for a few years. My role then became more active in around 2018. The Mission Center officers became more directly involved with the property maintenance after the church separated from a relationship with a nearby apartment complex. And we were kind of discerning, what do we do since we didn't have a paid pastor? The emerging congregation was struggling. We no longer had this official relationship with the apartment complex. We had to decide what could we do. And initially, we had taken an authorization to sell a resolution to the Mission Center Conference to give us some flexibility to explore options. But we didn't ultimately consider that, and instead we kind of refocused on how we could support ministry in the neighborhood. And in that process, we reached out to partners, including Voices for Earth Justice, who is an environmental justice focus group very close to us. And we, at some point, were approached with the option to kind of re-engage with Michigan Interfaith Power and Light to go back about the work we had started on the building. So we did some energy assessments again with the utilities, and found out what our next steps could be for potential building improvements. And then we had I had the opportunity to go to a statewide conference in Detroit and happened to meet the manager of a nonprofit food pantry ministry who was looking for a space. They were a few blocks from us and needed a new space, and everything worked out where they could rent part of our facility to do their ministry, which had some focus on water rights in Detroit. And at the same time, an opportunity came up to join the Detroit 2030 district, which is a local chapter of a national movement to get cities and building owners to reduce their carbon footprint. So all these things kind of just started to fall together. The Voices for Earth Justice group also got involved in a large grant proposal to do a community design project where they would engage the neighborhood on what they wanted to see and how they could help make change. And all of that sort of came together to a point where we started replacing light fixtures in our office building that was rented out, but managed by the Mission Center. And then the congregation started to get involved with what they could do next. And then that's when the pandemic hit us. So since that time, we've kind of been on hold with specific plans, but what we have accomplished are the replacement of lights, all the screw-in and tube lights to LED fixtures, along with our external lighting, which those were running quite a bit on old, pretty high use bulbs. So those have all been converted to LEDs now, and we receive rebates to help with that through the utility company. And we also actually got the external fixtures all donated, and labor donated by the contractor who we had reached out to. They were gracious enough to just do that for free, knowing that we were a small church in the neighborhood. And we've fixed our downspouts and gutters and some roof issues to get all of our drainage working. And we're now in the process of getting we've got 2 potential grants to help us with installing native plants and rain gardens to manage our green stormwater runoff. It's actually a really large expense in the city of Detroit because they have combined sewer and stormwater runoff. And so they're now charging property owners, and including nonprofits, pretty high drainage fees. And so we're fortunate to have an arrangement with the apartment complex to help cover that cost, but hopefully we can reduce that and witness to the neighborhood how to reduce that, so we can divert stormwater runoff from drain water and reduce the credits for people who have to pay them. We've also gotten some work done on exploring our building envelope for insulation. The window replacements were redone as one part of that to reduce our heat loss and cooling in the summer. And we've replaced several doors that needed replacement. So that's been a safety upgrade and an energy upgrade for us. So we're kind of at the point now of we've done most of the easier projects that have the most immediate return on investment and things that we could do. And so we're sort of in the next exploration stage for the bigger projects like the boiler for heat. What do we do for air conditioning? We currently just have some portable window units, which we know aren't efficient. But we need some engineering to help us design the overall process. And we're actually a good candidate for our site for installing solar panels. And we have had a few quotes for that. And we think that'll be possible, but we need to, I think, answer our HVAC questions so we know our energy load first to get the right system in place if we can put the solar in. So we've been moving ahead sort of step by step and hoping we can keep taking more steps. We do have grant funding now to help us with the engineering for the rain gardens and the water runoff, and hopefully at least install 1 or 2 of the first gardens. And then we can go from there with doing the rest of our property in the long run. And we're really excited about the partnerships we've formed in the community. Just this year in 2021, the Detroit 2030 district piloted a treasure hunt for houses of worship in partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency. And we were one of 4 houses of worship in Detroit that went through that process. And so it was a month-to-month experience where we would have a presentation on a particular topic like lighting or heating and cooling, building envelope, green stormwater, solar, et cetera. And then after each month, we had a technical support person. In our case, it was a former contractor who was paired with us, who would then kind of go through a checklist on our building to see how those topics applied to us and what steps we might take. So we were kind of already doing that, but now we had the technical assistance to move ahead with the bigger projects especially. We didn't get everything done in the treasure hunt, but we identified what needed to be done. And so we now have a goal list for the future on when we have funding and everything falls together, what steps we can take. So we're really excited as a mission center to better manage the office and church buildings. And by doing that, we've been able to reduce some of our operating costs and be better stewards for the environment, while also letting the congregation focus solely on ministry and leadership development and their programs with fewer costs to the emerging congregation. So overall, it's been a win-win. And then we've partnered with our organizations in the neighborhood to really create some, I think, great momentum for what we can do, not only with our parcels, but the whole probably 5 or 6 city blocks that can hopefully be connected together, focusing on the environment, urban farming, sustainable energy, stormwater management, and the whole holistic process of caring for creation there. Before I took on those roles in the Mission Center leadership, I was serving as the Mission Center missionary coordinator and was traveling around to various congregations and campgrounds, and noticed that practices weren't always the best for environmental stewardship when we were meeting and having meals, using a lot of disposable tableware and not always recycling, those kinds of things. And so my wife and I authored a resolution that we submitted to a congregation and then to the Mission Center Conference in 2013 that focused on environmental stewardship and encouraging that in our congregations and at our campgrounds. So the resolution looked at encouraging the elimination of disposable tableware and individual serving containers, those sorts of items. It also asks the boards responsible for campgrounds and congregations to look at ways to reduce energy usage and the consumption of resources, whether that be through programmable thermostats or fixes to reduce energy loss, those kinds of things. And then it stated that recycling be implemented in all Mission Center facilities wherever that was available. And then finally, we had a resolution or a paragraph in the resolution that created an Earth stewardship team that could be appointed by the Mission Center president for gathering resources and data and sharing things with congregations and campgrounds to live out the resolution. And we were pleased that the congregation supported that resolution and the Mission Center Conference adopted it. And since then, we've heard a number of different stories from pastors and members and campground boards, all taking various small steps. One, we've heard a few different times is switching back to glass communion cups that congregations had on the shelf for a long time that they're now using and washing each month. Or we've heard of places that are encourage people to bring their own plates and silverware to potlucks instead of using foam or plastic ones and throwing them away. Congregations have taken up the local utility companies on free energy assessments so they can get LED bulbs or digital thermostats or some basic things, and then have gotten ideas on how they could take bigger steps as well. And we've had even bigger efforts to raise funds to make some of these changes at our campground properties or to explore solar panels and bigger projects related to the environment. So I think just crafting the resolution in a way that didn't require anybody to do anything, but encourage them to think about these changes, and then putting together the process for a team to help support it has raised awareness amongst leaders and members and has helped to keep efforts going towards being better stewards for creation. I would recommend to any congregations, campgrounds, or individuals thinking about any energy improvements on their buildings to reach out to local utility providers or contractors or environmental groups. They have all been very willing to work with me and any of our church properties to help educate us on the options we have, the products that are available, the different things we might need to consider as we go about our work. They've given me hands-on training on how to switch a fluorescent tube to an LED tube. They've explained different types of solar panels, how they work. And we've even had contractors who donated their labor and costs for doing some of the work for us when we've explained what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it can seem daunting and technical to think about how all these things work, but I'd say reach out, and there are people out there who want to help. Sometimes there's grant funding, sometimes it's just education, sometimes it's skills. At the very least, you'll get the information and learn where you need to go next to figure out your plans and how to make them a reality.